Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Hey everyone, it's your good friend Eric Thompson. This is the Ninja Selling Podcast. Thank you as always for listening and engaging with us. We so appreciate it. I am so looking forward to this edition, to this episode, because we have a very, very special guest with us, an amazing leader in our industry. You guys, it's Jennifer Lind with Coldwell Banker. Jennifer, welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Thank you, Eric. It's a pleasure to be with you.
It's our pleasure to have you here with us. Everyone should know, if you don't already know Jennifer, I'm guessing, Jennifer, you have a lot of fans, a lot of people who know you already listening, but just in case you don't know Jennifer, right now, she's the regional president at Coldwell Banker. Jennifer, the region that you oversee is the West region. It's a big region, and really impressive. It's amazing what you're doing. We'll get into detail on that, on what you're doing now, what led you to that. We're going to get your take on the industry, lots of great things. One thing I want to share right up front is that one of the things I really appreciate about this industry, and I've been lucky enough to be in this industry for 31 years, I think a lot about how grateful I am for all the people that I've met. And along the way, there are a handful of people that stand out, that really stand out to me as being just really special, really, really incredible, making such a positive difference in our industry, people that have affected me in a positive way. Jennifer, you are absolutely one of those people. I feel so grateful to know you. You and I spent a little time working together at Windermere Real Estate, a great, great company. So I feel fortunate for that. And Jennifer, again, I'm just really grateful for you and grateful that you're joining us here today.
Oh, you're so sweet. And I share your sentiment. It was an absolute honor to work with you, and just great. You do such a great job, and I know you're making an impact where you are right now. So just my honor to be in a universe with you, Eric.
Oh, well, that's really, really nice. Let's let everyone know, just so they're clear about your role today. So the West Region President for Coldwell Banker. So what's included in the West Region? So I'm guessing you think of it in terms of states. And so what states, like how many offices is that? How many agents?
Multiple states. The West is the best, of course, we think. I oversee Washington, Oregon, NorCal, SoCal, and Hawaii.
Oh, got it.
Company-owned stores for Coldwell Banker. So we've got about 120 offices, about 11,000 agents. The West Coast has just got it's a highly visible, highly engaged real estate market. So there's always excitement happening on the West Coast.
It's never boring on the West Coast. There's a lot happening everywhere, especially on the West Coast. We'll get into that. Yeah. We're also going to get into and really leverage the fact that you oversee so many agents in your region, which means you have visibility into lots of people to help us understand what's working right now. We'll get into that, but let's have some fun with learning a little bit about your real estate background. When did you first start in real estate, and kind of tell us that story, and then we'll kind of trace your career from there.
Yeah, so I got licensed in 2003. I was in I moved to Seattle, and my mother-in-law had been in real estate in the past, and she was the one that was really like, you should get your real estate license. And it was kind of like, oh, that could be interesting. 2003, great market in 2003, by the way. So got licensed and started selling, and it was much harder than I expected. I think that's, something that they don't always tell you as a new agent, that it's hard. So navigated through kind of being a new agent, and it was probably my second year in the business, and my manager at the time had asked me if I would mentor the new agents. We had a very established office mentor, had been in the business for 20 years, and she was moving out of state. And he asked me if I'd be interested in mentoring the new people. And I really felt I was still a new person. So I didn't qualify for this at all. I'll help you out, kind of thing. And I think, he probably saw something before I did, but there was, as you know, Eric, you've experienced this. There was something about being with agents, that helping them launch their own businesses and explaining your journey and helping them walk down that path for their own phase of their career, just like that was a drug for me. And as I got a little flavor of oh my gosh, I could make the impact I make with my business and my clients. But when you felt like you could help other people do that, I think that was kind of the gateway into leadership for me. So
Yes.
just to kind of finish the path, I then became a branch manager and owner. So owned and ran my own franchise for John L. Scott from 2006 to 2012. So before, during, and after the worst real estate market we've seen. And that was lots of lessons. That's probably a whole nother podcast, but lots of lessons in that time. And then kind of got into executive leadership, became a vice president on the corporate side, and did that. Oversaw lots and lots of different moving pieces, everything from, growth and recruiting to marketing to luxury. So lots of spinning plates. And then you and I had the pleasure. I took the senior VP role over at Windermere for a couple of years. And then it was end of 2020. We were in the middle of that weird moment of a pandemic. And I got pinged about an opportunity with Coldwell Banker in the California market that led me into the path I'm in right now.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible. And one of the reasons you are so valuable is that you've held so many different roles in this industry. You have been an agent yourself. You know exactly what it's like to work with a buyer, to be out showing property, to work with the seller, to sit at their kitchen table, to have those conversations. You've been a manager in office. You've been a brokerage owner. You've been in executive positions. Now you're with a large organization in a big role. And so you've seen all of it in all kinds of different markets, all the different aspects of it. So speaking of that, I would ask that you help us out, Jennifer, and you get to know about a lot of people, a lot of offices, a lot of agents, and you especially have, I would guess, a really good sense of what's working right now, what's not working right now. As you know, by the way, you're a ninja. We should let everyone know that you're definitely, you are a ninja. There are many ninja moments in that background. So as you know, as a ninja, we talk about the 3 keys to success: mindset, skill set, action. So what comes up for you right now in any one of those categories, mindset, skill set, action, when you think about the agents who are performing well right now, who are super fulfilled, have terrific careers, they're achieving the things that they want to achieve. What do you notice with them that they have in common? What comes up for you?
Yeah, it's so interesting because I think there's different markets and different times where you could kind of argue like one of the 3 of those things kind of take the center stage. And I mean, it is literally at the moment a balance of all 3. I don't think there's anything we can do in this business that creates any success without mindset, right? And I think everything we've gone through the last couple of years, like there's been uncertainty and there's been lawsuits and there's just like, if you didn't keep a good mindset, like the other 2 won't matter. So
Right.
that is just has to be forefront of everything we do. And by the way, that's hard. Like that always kind of feels like the easy one to always say. But of the 3, actually, it's the most difficult because it's really, you know how to, skill set and execution, those are very tactical, but like really like managing your mindset is pretty tough. And I think, what you consume and who you're around and where you spend your time and where you spend your energy, right? Like those all really feed into that. So, and then, the skill set I've been saying for, especially beginning at January last year, we had a whole change in buyer representation agreements and expectations and conversations with clients. Like I told my team, like, this is a level up moment. There's an opportunity. I personally really like it when we go through a transitioning market. When something happens, most people kind of freeze and they get nervous. I like it because I think it shines a light on the people in our industry who know what they're doing and do it really well and who want to get better. And I think this last year and a half has really, I'm sure you're experiencing this too, but you talk to the agents who are really successful right now, or even brokerage owners or brands, like whoever is successful right now, it is because they have found a way to get much, much better at the job that they were already good at.
Yes.
And then I think just, execution, like we can have the best strategy in the world, we can have the smartest people in the room, but if it doesn't resonate with the field and resonate with the agents and doesn't actually get results, and you don't actually pull the trigger and actually make it happen, like it's all just, it's fluff at that point if you don't do anything with it.
Right,
So
right.
it really is kind of the trifecta right now. You need all three.
need
I
all
love
three.
all three of those pieces for different reasons.
I love it. I love what you said about right now is a level up moment. Sometimes with these podcasts, we know the title going in. Sometimes we uncover the title of the podcast in the middle of the podcast, and we just did that. So we're going to call this podcast the level up moment.
Level up moment.
Jennifer, you talk about mindset, the importance of mindset. Mindset is first in the trifecta. It goes mindset, skill set, action. I've never seen you not in a high positive mindset ever. And sure, I'm guessing you have your moments, but none of us see those moments.
We all do.
You are always positive. You're always smiling. You're always thinking proactively, never frozen. So what do you do to have that kind of mindset? What are the things that you do intentionally in your day, in your week, to get yourself into that state?
Yeah. And, I think it's important anytime we talk about this, and, like you said, like nobody sees that part. First of all, everybody has horrible moments, right? Everybody's tired and worn out and exhausted. And I think sometimes this perception, whether it's in person or on social media, that everyone's got this all figured out but you, like that's not real. So everybody struggles with it. I try to do, like, my mornings are pretty sacred times, and I travel a ton for work. So it used to be I'd have a very structured morning that looked the same in my own home road. I have to kind of, navigate that based on where I'm at. But I think, I always have some version of an hour to myself in the morning. And sometimes that is just like a cup of coffee sitting outside and just thinking quietly. I need my morning. My morning is the only time I get up pretty early. It's the only time I have to myself that I know, like, for the most part, no one's calling me at 5 a.m. So like, that's kind of a protected, and although sometimes that happens. But the evenings are really hard to manage. The rest of the day is hard to manage. So I always just feel like anything that I need to just protect myself for has to happen in the morning. So I try to do that as much as possible. The other thing, honestly, Eric, I think that's super important for me is, like I said, the energy that I get from like who I talk to, where I spend my time, what I consume. Like there's been times where, we all have to be updated on what's happening in the news, of course. Like I will almost always read the news. I rarely watch the news. Like I want to know what's happening, but I can't watch it for whatever reason. I just like have a negative reaction to that. And I think just talking to people who win, right? So we don't always win, and we have to know, if you're going to win, you have to know what you're willing to lose at, because you don't get to win at everything. But I think too, one of the things that I always try to focus on is who's doing something better than me, and what do I learn from them? Right. So like, even when you and I work together, I would watch you do something and you're reading like, oh my God, I love that. Like, how do I don't need to take credit for it. I didn't need to come up with it. I just need to feed off of the wins other people are having and take a lesson of that. That helps a lot. It doesn't always have to be your momentum. Feeding off of other people sometimes can be really important. So, like who you work with and who you work for and who you spend your time with, like it matters.
It absolutely matters. What I hear a lot of, Jennifer, is you being intentional. You're intentional about your morning. You're intentional about your consumption of the news. You're aware of it, but you're not obsessed by it. And you say, I can read it, but I'm not going to watch it because that can trigger some feelings inside me. So
it's different, right?
Yeah, right. It's a different experience. And you're also being intentional about the people that you're around. I really like what you said. You're choosing to be around winners because we all want to win. And so what can we learn from the other people who are winning without being resentful or jealous or anything like that? Say, okay, they're doing something great. What can I learn from them? How could I do that? What would my version of that be?
Exactly.
Jennifer, I want to ask you about leadership and ask you about brokerage leadership. You have been one, and now you have well over 100 offices in your region. You're seeing what works, what doesn't. What do you notice about your brokerage owners, your affiliates who are really excelling right now? who are doing a great job, what are some things that they're doing maybe that other people can emulate? And maybe also what are some things that you're coaching people in that kind of a role to do, to how are you coaching them to level up?
Two things that come to mind. I'm very clear and very adamant with my leadership team, and change management, like getting used to change, like that's something we hear a lot, we deal with it a lot. Leading through change is very different than managing the change that's coming to you. And so I find, first of all, I'm always fascinated that our industry struggles with change because it's literally all that happens. Like
Right.
market changes, the inventory changes. Like we should be excellent at this. And I've always said, like, nobody likes change, but everybody loves innovation. Like nobody wants to be the kind of like, oh, well, you change the coffee and that feels frustrating. You have to like, you know, as a leader, you have to like navigate a whole conversation on why we changed the coffee, right? But if you as someone, if they want to be part of an innovative company, everybody wants to be part of innovation. And I think where that gets lost in translation is the why, right? So I think sometimes we have a tendency to either we were reacting to something, and just to be clear, the last 2 years has been, and longer, last 5 years, have shown us that like sometimes just things happen you didn't plan for, you didn't see coming, and you've got to figure it out, right? And then there's other changes that you can be more strategic and thoughtful around. I always tell my leadership team, if you don't have a good strategy on what change you're going to navigate moving forward, someone will come up with something for you that you may not love. So you should like own your journey, like own where you're going. And I think as an industry, this isn't just leadership. I think as an industry, we have a tendency to want to feel like we got it all figured out. We can just kind of settle in. And that's not real. You have to be really good at this is working right now. And I'm really excited about what we're experiencing right now. Or I'm not excited about what we're experiencing, but like, where are we going and what am I drafting the next version to look like? I think sometimes we kind of wait for things to carry us along because we had to versus getting in front of it a bit more. So I think that's one big thing. I think too, just, as our industry has morphed, the level of expertise that you need and how you determine who you can serve on any level and who you can't, that clarity is really important. I think we have for a long time wanted to be all things to all people on every level in this business. And I think being really clear on what you represent, who you are, what you stand for, who are your clients, who are you really good for, and who you aren't good for. When I first joined Coldwell Banker, I was very clear. Like, I personally don't care how many names are on our roster. I want to know that we have the best names on our roster.
Yes.
And who is a good fit for us, and who are we looking for? I think you've experienced this yourself, Eric. Like, when you kind of find your lane and you add clarity to it and you add focus to it, you kind of start attracting those people. So you're like, oh yeah, this is exactly what I was looking for, versus like, we'll take anybody or I'll do anything or, I'll sell anywhere. It's like, yeah, that doesn't usually attract things to you. You have to kind of go pick it up as you go along, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love all of this. When in past roles, when I was directly coaching brokerage owners, I would say one of the best things you can do is become really clear about who you are for.
Exactly.
And then also who you're not. So in ninja selling, as you know, we talk about abundance versus scarcity.
Yes.
So a scarce mindset says, I'll work with anyone because I have to work with anyone. And so that's a whole lot of sacrifice, a whole lot of compromise. But when you can really make a stand and really get clear, really plant your flag in the place of, okay, this is the exact kind of person that I am for. I can help this kind of person in such an amazing way. And that's the kind of person I want. And I'm willing to say no to people who don't fit that. I've watched it with agents. I know you have too. I watch it with brokerage owners. You just take off when you're really clear about that. By the way, you may be interested to know, Jennifer, we're going through this exercise. We're having a lot of these kind of conversations at Ninja Coaching. But we know that our coaching works for a certain kind of person. And we're getting really clear about that to become even more attractive to that kind of person. So this is Jennifer and I encouraging all of you, just get so clear about who you're for and be willing to say no to those that you're not for. And
yeah, there's a lot of strength and a lot of power in clarity. And I think it's very noisy. It's very noisy all around us. And so I think when you can get crisp with your message and clear and clarity for yourself and for the message that you're sending, I couldn't agree more, Eric. I think it does help things just take off and makes the job, going back to mindset, makes you feel more empowered and excited about what you're doing. It just feels better.
yes, yeah, you can get more focused. All at once you're focused on just a few things, not a lot of things, a few people, not a lot of people. It's super empowering. I find that a big deal right now in our industry, as we look just at an office by office level, is engagement. And I notice really varying engagement in between offices, sometimes even within the same company. And what we see always is that the more engaged a group of agents are into that office and into that leader, the more productive they're going to be, more fulfilled, more successful. So what do you see some brokerage owners doing who are really good at that, who are really good at building engagement? Are there like specific things that stand out in terms of actions that they're taking, strategies that they have to build that really strong engagement?
Yeah, love this question because it's something that, like you said, is really setting some folks apart. And you and I were talking previously about just some of the things that COVID had brought about. And, the agents don't come into the office to do their work. They come in for something much more meaningful. And that engagement and that connection, that collaboration, like how are we handling this is humongous. I think some things that, like with a lot of things that I'm sure you guys talk about all the time, Eric, there's an art and a science to the way that you do this. And I think there's training and, we had everybody's attention last year when there were new forms that no one knew how to use. So
we sure did. Yeah.
We're holding a forms class with an attorney. You got a great turnout, right? So there's moments where I was joking with one of our branch leaders. I'm like, we have their attention. They are like, everyone's listening right now. So be thoughtful. But I think, on the other side of it, everything from, a Cinco de Mayo party, awards events, potlucks, chili cook-offs, there's fun stuff like that. But then like we've got, one of our offices in Northern California, we've merged a couple offices. That's a whole other thing that's happening. We merged a couple offices and our branch leader, not only needing to engage with his team, but like roll in two cultures into one and you'll host a monthly mastermind where there's a guest speaker. I mean, till 150 people show up in person for something like that. And part of it is just that how you are engaging with the conversations that matter, if that makes sense.
Yes.
It's the topics that are pressing, whether it's the pain or the pleasure, there's things that everyone is collectively feeling. And when you can and there's a way virtually is great. Like you can spread a really wide net virtually. So there's a way to use that, but it has to be combined with this regional and localized. And like you said on the brand, it's hyper local, right? Real estate is hyper local. You have to know how to connect with your community. I think, we've got office that does food drives once a month and, whether it's charity or community involvement, whether it's mastermind, whether it's just them getting together and like having fun. I think you're part of a bigger culture and you don't feel alone. So yes. I think it goes back to the feeding and mindset.
Absolutely. What I'm hearing mostly, Jennifer, is that it starts with deciding to. I'm going to have an engaged culture. These people will be engaged with each other, with the office, and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make that happen. Jennifer, let's talk about our industry. You were just talking about change. The only constant is change. I was laughing when you said us in this industry getting wound up that there's a lot of change. Well, there's only been a lot of change. There's only going to be a lot more. That's always been true. Before we talk about where you see things going in our industry, a question that just came up for me is, what do you compare to when you started? So you started in 2003. Compared to when you started, what's different and what's the same? What's different and what's the same? What comes up for you over those 20 plus years?
Feels like a really long time ago. And I'm like searching back. I mean, obviously what's changed, one of the big changes, I mean, I think, technology is easy to say, but I think outside of just, efficiencies of technology, like there's just been, I mean, obviously recently, right? We've got like an AI component, but like go back even further, right? Like, I mean, I didn't even have DocuSign when I first started, right? Like now, or let's start. We start to date ourselves, Eric.
No,
go back.
Let's not do that.
The books. I was after the books, so that's
I had the book.
You did, okay.
Yes.
So, but I do think there's an there's been a really kind of exciting evolution of marketing that I think has been really interesting to watch. What used to, we were talking the other day, you'd have, flyers. And I remember gosh, in like 2008, I thought it was so cool because I would burn the documents of like all the closing documents. I'd burn it to like a CD for my clients as part of their closing gift. And, the cover of the CD was like a little picture of their house. And I remember thinking like, that was like, I was really proud of that. And now I'm just like, oh my God, it'd be so weird. Not doing that right now is hysterical. But I think and in that same vein, what hasn't changed is like wanting to connect and delight and create an emotional connection with your client,
Absolutely.
right? So whether it's the video of the home or how the pictures were done or turned into a drone, which is now an AI sunset, tool, all the stuff that changed. Part of it is, we want to show up and look professional and we want to represent the property beautifully. And I think getting exposure to your inventory and doing that at a really high level is super important. But what hasn't changed around that, I think also is just there is this like wanting your clients to be proud of the job that you do, right? That there's an emotional connection and a pride in that. And I think sometimes with technology, you see some of the personal touches that feel like they go away. But I really think there is still a connection to the emotional drive of that
Yes.
I think has been pretty cool. I think too, just how agents navigate legal conversations with their clients. I think that's really also has changed quite a bit since I first got in. It was, I always felt before where it was kind of, there was some, like there's only 3 pages of a document. Now we're up to 16 and, like whatever the numbers may be in your market. But I just think the advancement of technical conversations you have with your clients is really, really important. And I think that's been by the way, that change I think has been super refreshing when things have gotten a bit more complicated and more sophisticated. Again, this industry needed to level up. That's not a bad thing.
It's a level up moment.
It's a level up moment.
This is a time for the true professionals, right? People who are committed, who really, really know their stuff. And I really like what you're saying about what hasn't changed. It's just that satisfaction you get from taking care of someone and at closing or even before then. Yeah.
Absolutely. Your sphere of influence and I mean, I don't know about you, but most of my top agents, I mean, lots of different, lead gen and all the things that go along that. And that's super great. The majority of agents that do the majority of the business get the majority of their leads from their reputation and their connection with people and their referrals and all of the things that I know your ninja community and we as ninjas believe that it is not just about a transaction. It's about being in the people's lives. And I think, the other thing that, this last couple of years has also proved to us is, when you're in a market like we are, where it's life events, like it's a life event market. Like no one's like, oh, I think I just want a bigger house. Like they're doing it because there's some sort of a life event. And I think you have to be part of their lives to like really become like the person that they think of when their life event is happening. You need to know what's happening in their life.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let's keep going with change. And now we're gonna talk about the future. And the question I'm going to ask you is, what does this look like in 5 years? And that, I know that's probably a harder question, but gosh, you're highly intelligent. You and your company, you are around some highly intelligent people. You're having highly intelligent conversations. Where's this going? And just thinking, Jennifer, in the time that you and I first started talking about making this recording to today, it's been what a couple of weeks. Just in the last 2 weeks, there's all kinds of news in the industry, all kinds of change. And so now we're talking about 5 years in the future. But where do you see things, big picture for our industry 5 years from now?
Yeah, good question. There's part of it that I think, there's pieces of it that you feel pretty confident, right? Like, first of all, I feel pretty confident and again, not a bad thing, but there will be less agents, less companies, less brands, less buildings. Like, this will get more refined and more sophisticated, which, again, I think is great. I think moving forward, this isn't just like a hobby industry. I think there's too much on the line for it to be that moving forward. And I think how we service our clients and the efficiencies, it was interesting. We had a conversation a few months ago with some of our agents, talking about value proposition, which everybody talks about all the time, of course. But the tagline that real estate agents have used for years is, I'm going to help you find your dream home. And it's like, any buyer can find their dream home online anytime they want. That is not what they need us for. And I think moving forward 5 years from now, their access to information and properties, like, nobody needs you to help them find a house. That's not the play. It's really about understanding their why and the financial impact and the negotiations and about the school district. It's all that stuff, right? And I think we're going to see more of that. I think as we move forward, like, your level of expertise in things outside of just the building of the home, you know what I mean? Like the structure of the home. I think understanding the financial implications of how to leverage different things. Like, there's some great agents out there right now that, are having really good conversations about investment properties with their clients that they were not having before. And part of that was, you've got a house that's 2% interest rate and you can't sell it, then they think they can't do anything. And like, helping them leverage, like, great news is we're in a market where people have equity and they've got options. And so I think moving forward 5 years from now, I think we're going to see that we're having just a higher level conversation and we're providing a different level of support. I do think, the AI thing is just not going to stop. And there's so many great things. I don't know how much you guys have dug into it. It's one of those, like, as soon as you use it for one thing, you're like, oh my gosh, what else can we use it for? This is so great. And it doesn't ever replace us, right? And I think that's one of the 5 years from now, like, we still have real estate agents. They just need to be really, really good at what they do. And I think that, like you said, there's a breaking news in headline, like, 5 times a week now instead of 5 times a year. And so lots of people trying to figure out how to find their path in all of this and how to stay relevant. But I don't know. I think, like I said, I think agents got some very high dollar, high net worth individuals that buy and sell on the West Coast. And they've got attorneys and they're wealthy and they're smart and they absolutely will not make a real estate move without talking to their real estate professional.
Yes.
And so I think, again, that comes from not just someone to open doors and get them in houses. It's really walking them through options and connections and networks. The other thing too, I think what the ninja community has, and sometimes each brand has a version of this, but like the national and international network of who you connect with, not just who you market to, right? Like, not just marketing your listings internationally, but really having connections and relationships with agents that do business in feeder markets and sister markets and secondary markets. Like, all of that, I think we're going to see way more of that.
Yes, way more. You said you see our industry becoming more refined and more sophisticated. The client will demand an agent who's more refined and sophisticated. So comes up for me is it's time for us ourselves to become more refined, more sophisticated. Let's finish, Jennifer, in our last couple minutes, talking a little bit about your career. I was just thinking about if we were to put the steps in your career like on a timeline, bullet point, started here, ended up here. It is remarkable. The growth, the elevation, remarkable, but also not, and maybe not surprising given the kind of person that you are. Tell us, as you think back, as you think about that timeline, your career path, what comes up for you for like the bigger inflection points, the inflection people? Are there moments, are there things you can point to that cause this elevation? Right? And I think a lot of people can learn from this. There may be others out there that aspire to take a path like you did, or they just want to generally level up. That is the theme of today. So
That's right.
what are some of the things you can point to that cause the growth that you've experienced in your career?
Yeah, I think it's been like such a interesting journey, and there's been a lot of it that happened really organically. Like, things that I didn't necessarily know I was looking for. I mean, this industry has so many paths. I think, like I talked about early on when I got into leadership, like if you are wanting to get into leadership because you either think you're going to make more money or you're going to do it for ego, I would take second
Think again. Yeah.
that. Slow your roll. I mean, because it really comes from like feeding another part of your soul. And I think part of where, like when you ask about the inflection points, like I'm reflecting on this as you're talking about it, there's a lot of this that really came from like me leaning into feeling like I was making an impact.
Mm.
Like anytime where, again, it wasn't about like I need a new title or I need a new role. It was just like, oh, I felt like I could move the needle there. And then you watch the needle move, you're like, well, that was cool. And then you kind of lean in more. And so I think there's been market conditions, there's been conditions in the brands that I was with. There's just been different opportunities that I think when it's a little bit like when other people are looking for someone else to solve it or fix it or want it to stay the same. I think my general approach to things is usually like, how do we make it better? Like, how do we make an impact? And how do you feel like you made a difference? I think honestly, that's been like a core driver of a lot of my success. But I have incredible people that are on my team, have been on my teams, that both the leadership colleagues that I've had. I mean, I've just been surrounded, yourself included, by just really impressive people that make me want to be better. And
Yes.
yeah, it kind of goes back to something I said earlier, but like, I think that's part of it too. Like if you're with people that are okay with things just being the way they are, I've never found that to be where I want to spend my time. And I think that's partially has led to where I'm at. The other thing too, I think, we talked about this early on, but I'm a real estate, like I lead from the field. I'm in real estate offices. If I'm not at my home office or on an airplane, I'm in a real estate office. And that is where the action is. And
Yes.
people ask me all the time, like, oh, where's your office? Like there's some corporate tower that I work in. I'm like, I don't have an office. Like I have 120 offices. I am in the field all the time. And I think staying connected to where the business happens and who's doing the business. I mean, the assets of a real estate company are all of our real estate agents. They are our clients, and understanding the frustration or expectation that our clients have is really important. And I don't know how to do that any other way except being in front of it and like hearing firsthand. And I think it's given me context and a perspective, I think, as my roles have morphed, to not lose sight of that.
Mm. So you said what worked for you in your career is to lean in and level up, right? Lean in, level up, and to be the person in the room who's presenting solutions, who's shifting up the mindset, who's shifting up the energy. And you know what, Jennifer, as you were talking, I remember times when you did that, where we as a team would be in the room talking through a challenge. Maybe the conversation had gone to not a highly effective place, and you were always the one. You were always the one who said, "Hey guys, what about this? What if that? Have we considered? How about anything like that can just shift things and get people to be open-minded to possibility, to solution." You have a gift at that, and I think that's something that really anyone can take away and implement into their own business and into their own life.
Thank you.
Jennifer.
There's also the other last thing I'll say on this too, because it shows up over and over, like momentum and morale. My team hears me say this all the time. Momentum and morale are very closely connected. You cannot have one without the other, at least for not in any extended period of time. And so, when you've got really good momentum going, like you just feel better, right? And if you feel better, you get more momentum. But it's like that idea, like I need to get motivated to go to the gym. It's like, well, or you can go to the gym to get motivated. Like, it's just sometimes you just walk out the door. I used to always kind of trick myself when I didn't want to go to the gym. It's like, I'm just going to go to the gym and walk on the treadmill for 5 minutes. Of course, that's not what I'm going to do, but it got me in the door. And once I was in the door, then I'm like, well, of course I'm going to, do something else. But I just think that, staying connected with momentum and morale and just looking at things at a fresh lens. And sometimes you just have to just take a break from it, right? Like, let's not work on this right now. Let's work on something else. So
yes, momentum and morale. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, Jennifer, we have leveled up. Thanks to you.
It's
a level up moment.
Yes.
This whole podcast has been a level up moment. Jennifer, I appreciate you so much and what you do for our industry. I appreciate this time and everything you shared and all the value that you just provided. Everyone reach out to Jennifer, send her a note, send her an email. Handwritten note, of course, is better to say thank you. It's Jennifer Lind with Coldwell Banker, the president of the West region. Jennifer, thank you again.
Erica, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for thanking me. It's an honor to be able to be part of the ninja world and everything you guys are doing. So thank you for the impact you're making every day.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Thank you again for being here. Thank you, everyone, for listening, for engaging. We appreciate it. And as always, we'll look forward to seeing you in the next podcast. Take care.